Hello and welcome to the hearing. I'm John.
And from Chicago's North Side, I am Scotto.
And before we get to this week's album, just a few things to talk about. First off, I want to plug my upcoming single. Well, upcoming as we're recording this, it'll be out by the time this is out because this is going to be out in a week and a half. It'll be out in 2 days as we're recording this, called Breaking Point. I would describe it as folk punk. It's very up-tempo. It's my fastest song so far.
Yeah.
Kind of surf influenced in terms of the chord changes. There's a bit of Dick Dale influence in there. One of the other independent artists who I know on Threads, there's a big community of independent music artists on there, has already said he wants to cover it. It's not officially out, but a few days before the official release, I put it out on Bandcamp and on my coffee, so he heard it through there. His name's Eth Eonel, Etheonel. If he does the cover, I'll of course be talking about it, but I'd recommend checking out his music anyway.
And of course, the listeners, you should always check out John H.
All,
Maloney's
all,
Bandcamp.
all my links are in the
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
show notes. Like with all my stuff, I obsessively listen before it's released. Weird one with this, particularly because Eth said he wanted to cover it. I thought the lyrics would be indecipherable to most people. Like, it's about my experience with neurodivergent meltdowns. This is not a subject I expected many people to kind of get.
Ah,
But
I think
but when
quite
Eth
the opposite.
oh, when Eth responded to it, he's like, those lyrics so powerful, and it was the lyrics mostly that made him want to cover it. But okay, you found it relatable too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. So yeah, that'll be out. That's already out if you're listening. Check the links in the show notes. Onto a couple of one very likely new album and one possible new album coming up. It has been strongly suggested via Bad Religion social media that they're in the studio working on a new album. There are photos of Brett and Graffin together recording. Also Brett and Brian Baker, who I share a birthday with, by the way, Brian Baker from Bad
Oh,
Religion. As of the Tuesday after this recording, the 25th. So definitely looking forward to that. It's been 6 years since Age of Unreason, and that seems to be their schedule. It was 6 years between that and True North.
that makes sense. Yeah, it's always welcome, of course. And it's good
Mm-hmm.
to at least have a pace,
Yeah, and their
Not,
last two albums have been incredible. I mean, I've loved everything since they went back to Epitaph, but True North and Age of Unreason were particularly good.
you don't suppose they'll do another prog album, do you?
No. I got into a conversation with someone on Threads about that. It was basically said he was tired of everybody hating on that album, and I was like, everything I've seen from like real hardcore BR fans, we love that album.
Bro,
Probably
the
because it's
album's
the
hardly
Misfit,
ever even mentioned, man.
huh?
The album's hardly even like brought up outside of
Well,
BR
yeah,
circles.
because Graffin regrets it. The entire band, Graffin and I don't know about Brett, but Graffin has been very regretful of it because it was too different. Fans didn't get it. It did horribly. So and it caused the band to split up. But um, so that I understand why they're traumatized by it, particularly Graffin. But every time I see it posted on YouTube, the comments are full of hardcore VR fans who just love it. Um, and this one guy on Thread said it must be a new thing that people are finally coming around to it. Um, the other possible new music, the Last Dinner Party posted a series of photos on Instagram the other day. The first one was Abigail, Lizzie, and Aurora all sitting around a table with headphones on, and the caption says, "Can you guess what we're listening to?" Or a prize if you can guess what we're listening to. Among the other series of photos were photos of a chord chart and a mixing board.
All right.
So
So,
heavily suggested they're working on new music.
I mean, they're young. They should be putting out stuff, like
Mm.
every year.
Well, they've also been touring
Yeah.
incessantly, and I think they're going back on the road soon. They
Wow.
just took time off for the holidays, and I think they're about ready to go back out, or have already gone back out. So that's the thing you want to do if you're young, because that's the thing you need to do when you're young and can physically withstand it.
Right.
Is just tour and tour and tour incessantly. Also, it's the thing you make more money from.
Definitely. I mean, it's not like the old days where, you had a contract where you were getting something from the label for just for recording.
Yeah.
Now you hardly get anything for the
Hmm.
recording. It's all promotion.
Yeah. Periodically, and I keep bringing up threads because I'm part of a big community. There's a lot of music discussion on there, particularly independent artists. And every once in a while, somebody posts the question, would you sign for amount of money? I've come to the conclusion that if I ever have a big enough audience that a label would even look at me, I don't need them. I'm already going to be making enough.
I guess it depends on the amount they're offering.
Well, no, I don't want to be rich or famous. One of my brothers worked in banking for like big scale banking
Yeah.
for a number of years, construction loans. He's explained some things, and whoever said "more money, more problems" was not lying. Life gets complicated past like $1 million. Um, I just want to
Oh
have
yeah, I
enough
wasn't
to.
thinking about a mill.
I just want to have enough to not have to worry. And if I have a big enough audience that a record company's looking at me, I'm not worrying about money. And I
That's
don't want to be
true.
famous. That's just a pain in the ass. I do not want.
Yeah.
Anyway, last thing we need to talk about is the halftime show. Biggest story in
Yes.
music at the moment. I fucking loved it.
I thought visually it was pretty cool. I mean, I always thought it was a weird pick for Kendrick, to pick Kendrick Lamar.
He's huge right now.
He is like 93 million, followers on Spotify, from what I
He's the
understand.
big name in hip hop at the moment, so
Yeah.
it makes sense to go with him. Because it really depends on what demographic they want to pull in. They're leaning now for a younger or urban demographic for the Super Bowl.
If anything, I would say he was too good for it because a lot of the Super Bowl halftime show
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to just be dumbed down stuff and,
Mm-hmm. But the subtext of
yes,
everything he did
right.
was fucking brilliant, and it completely divided people. And I feel like we're outliers because people our age are not the ones who are getting it.
All right.
Oh, I'll say particularly people our ages and skin tones were not the ones getting it. We got it, and it was in that level. I mean, whether or not you like his music, we disagree. I've become a fan. You're unimpressed with his music,
Yeah.
but the what he was saying was fucking brilliant. And
Yes,
loved Samuel L. Jackson's
of
involvement.
course. I mean, and you didn't need to look too deeply with Samuel L. there.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Sam. He was pretty much saying it right out what it was about.
But still, lots of old white people didn't get it,
Well, or they did, and they
or
were
don't want to admit it,
uncomfortable by
maybe.
it.
Um, but yeah, I saw somebody saying, "What are rock bands not allowed to play the Super Bowl anymore?" And it kind of turned into you for a minute,
Wow, a rock band really very rarely has ever played the Super Bowl.
unless they were legacy acts like Aerosmith
Yeah,
and shit. Um,
yeah, right. Like they were all very old rock bands
mhm,
playing. Tom Petty
yeah.
before he died, uh, Paul McCartney, who's barely still alive.
But I turned into you for a minute. I replied saying, "A rock band hasn't had a top 40 hit in over 20 years,
Yeah.
or in over a decade. I think it was the late, no, it's the when the last time a rock band had a hit. Um, why should they be given the biggest stage in the world when they haven't earned it, or one of the
Y-
biggest?
I guess what was the last one that really play? Coldplay, I think.
Probably, and they're
I'm
barely a
trying
rock band.
I'm trying to remember what year that was. But yeah, if you watch an NFL game, the PA system is always playing AC/DC.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
always playing Ozzy, but those guys are so old.
they're
Like,
aiming for boomers and now Gen Xers,
yeah,
particularly our demographic and older of our demographic. Um, I love that they went with Lamar because it means they're changing the demo that they're trying to reach now.
yeah.
Particularly Kendrick because he's not young MC, to use a very dated reference. He's not the big crossover artist. He's not Will Smith.
Right.
He's not one that the middle aged white people are going to get. And like, he is one that really aims for a particular younger urban demographic. And it's interesting that that's who they wanted to court.
It's Jay-Z that's been kind of curating the halftime shows for the last 2 or 3 years, I think now. I'm
Okay.
trying to remember how much longer he has on his contract and what he does next year.
Nice, nice. And I got to talk a little bit about how I first got into Kendrick because it's funny. Um, there's a channel on YouTube, Legal Eagle. It's about the law. It's about different legal things. I watch a lot of things that would surprise people. Um, but they did an episode about Drake's lawsuits because of what Kendrick said, and they quoted the line from "Not Like Us." Um, Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor.
Which, I mean, yeah, that's such a good line.
I immediately had to go listen to the song at that point. I was just so blown away by the genius of that line, and I just happen to really like his music.
But white people are most a lot of white people are just totally lost from it though,
Yeah.
like no idea about the feud or anything.
Mhm. I mean, I didn't really know anything about it because I mean, I was kind of peripherally aware. I liked hip hop in the '80s. I was kind of peripherally aware of it in the '90s. Actually, it was impossible not to be aware of it in the '90s because that's when it was ridiculously huge. Um, but after that, I kind of faded, and my knowledge of it recently has been artists that you've suggested for this show. Um,
I was kind of hoping the feud was a work and Drake would be there and they do like a rap rattle. I mean, then it would have been like, whoa.
because I'd heard about Drake. I knew of Drake. I knew of
Yeah.
Kendrick. I've been hearing about him for years. Childish Gambino, I think, is the only one rap artist who I was aware of outside of what we've reviewed.
Did we review Childish Gambino? No,
Not
or
yet.
no? Oh,
Um,
right.
Him and Run the Jewels, who are the only other rap artist I've gone back to in recent years, might be my gateway back in.
Yeah, I love Childish, and I mean, obviously Serengeti.
But it just kind of made me realize how people's tastes get stuck. This is my fuck the past rant that I've been on
Yeah,
a lot recently. Someone posted like, "What's the best decade in music?" My response was, "It's always going to be the current one, because what's new and innovative is always more interesting than what's already been done."
and you can go back and listen to the shit that's been done already, and
Yeah,
kind of take some new years to it though, not just bask in the nostalgia.
and I mean, I'll be the first to admit most of what I listen to is from the '80s. Um, I recently put a playlist together of my all-time favorite songs. I'm up to 15. Started with 10, now it's up to 15. 9 of them are from the '80s, but
Wow.
I know it's nostalgia. I know it's
Yeah.
because that were my teens. Um, but I'm still actively trying to find new music and trying to stay abreast of what is current, because that's where the interesting thing is.
Honestly, it isn't even that difficult to find new music because there's so many free,
Mm?
apps online to just, hey, play me what's going on here, listen to this for a while.
YouTube has been the best option for me. They just keep throwing new artists into my
Yeah.
recommendation. I'm not even YouTube Music, just probably an old YouTube. Um, One called Flailing Idiot, who will probably be reviewing if they have an album out. Young punk band. The singer is 14. She has an incredible voice. Um, really good band too. Um, anyway, enough of that rant.
Yeah.
Before I go in too much into the, old people need to listen to new music. On to this week's album, which is from 2024, In the Age of Doubt, by the Bridge City Sinners. The Bridge City Sinners are a folk punk string band who formed in Portland, Oregon in 2016, and whose music covers a number of genres, including folk, bluegrass, Americana, and pre-war jazz, all with a strong punk and metal influence. In the Age of Doubt is their fourth studio album. It was released on July 12th, 2024 on Flail Records, which is their label. They founded it.
All
Produced
right.
by Chris Crummett and features Livy Lux on lead vocals and banjolele, Michael Sinner on resonator guitar and vocals, Lightning Luke on violin, piano, and vocals, Clyde McGee on banjo and vocals, and Scott Michaud on upright bass and vocals, with additional musicians Charles DeCastro, trumpet on Break the Chains, Port Street Strut, Midnight Device, The Crawl, and Spears and Blades. J.R. Kaufman, clarinet on Port Street Strut, Midnight Device, The Crawl, and The Crawl. Justin Rubinstein, trombone on Port Street Strut, Midnight Device, and The Crawl. Isabel Deman, second violin on Break the Chains and End of the War. Chivia Ulinwa, viola on Break the Chains and End of the War. Mikey Margit, cello on Break the Chains and End of the War. Ben Grossman, background vocals on Eye for an Eye and Blades and Spears and Blades. And Joseph Faison IV, baritone guitar on Break the Chain. Just wanted to go through the list because everybody on this album is brilliant.
Yeah.
Reminder, I don't edit any songs into our reviews for copyright reasons, but on our blog at johnandscotto.wordpress.com, you'll find links to In the Age of Doubt on Spotify and Bandcamp. Yes, they're on Bandcamp. They're completely independent. So you can follow along if you'd like. Track 1, Break the Chain, opens up with this classic bluegrass sound, great up-tempo groove. Libby Lux's voice reminds me of a cross between Jeanette Napolitano and Gwen Stefani.
I mean, there are times where I was thinking she was going for an Amy Winehouse on the,
Okay.
not maybe not this song in particular, but some of the more
Yeah.
standards that they were doing.
Well,
or,
she leans very
standard
heavily
sounding.
into that old blues thing, which Amy did too.
Yeah.
I really relate to this one. Love when those horns come in. Love the sound of that baritone guitar. I almost want to see them bring in horns full time.
Yes, agreed. I mean, I got to admit, at first I was disappointed that it wasn't more of a metal bluegrass mashup, but I got over that pretty quickly because I mean, it's not metal, but it's
The influence is there.
right. You can tell the spirit's there, and the kick-ass bluegrass that I can't believe I'd never noticed how close bluegrass and mariachi
Oh yeah. Well, you bring
are.
horns into bluegrass, yeah, it does lean very mariachi.
I hear a lot of, Latino, Western kind of music around here in Chicago.
Right.
And, well, yeah, you just change the instruments, you just bring horns in there, and it goes from one to the other.
Love the fiddle playing in the chorus. Actually, I'll switch to calling it violin because that's what's in the notes, in the liner notes.
I was thinking of it as a fiddle too, but I guess, yeah, violin is
It's
the
Bandcamp,
viola.
so the band put that, and they own the record company, so the band knows what went in there. And Lightning Luke was specific about violin, so I'll call it a violin. Love that slightly distorted resonator guitar. A couple of spots they put just a little touch of distortion on Michael's guitar, Michael
Yeah.
Center's guitar. Love that. The bridge melody on this one is just haunting, and then it has this really pretty ending.
It's a great intro track. Just so much drama created here, which and yeah, the horns.
I have listened to this song like every morning for the past few weeks to wake up. Like it's not my alarm; it's the song I put on after I'm kind of just when I'm kind of just laying there in bed and need to get a burst of adrenaline.
Is this your pick for strongest then?
No,
Okay.
it's top 3, but not quite my
All
pick
right.
for favorite. I had to really think about my pick for favorite because I was really torn between a couple of others. Track 2, Port Street Strut. This is just a short instrumental. It's sort of an extended intro to the next few songs.
Yeah, I appreciate it more when they're just longer song put it together.
Yeah.
But if you're going for the punk DIY,
Mhm.
short songs, as
Um,
Jello
I
would
mean,
say.
this is 14 tracks in 34 minutes, so they don't
Yeah.
do long songs. Love the banjo part at the very beginning. Love the horns.
But I can't imagine hearing the next track without hearing this to lead
Yeah,
into it.
right. And I got to listen to this in a way that doesn't put a gap in there like Spotify does.
Ooh, boy, yeah. I hate that gap that Spotify puts in every now and again. They don't put it all the time. But man, if you're listening to like a concept album where the
Anything
songs are
where
supposed to go
the
together,
anything where two songs will flow together, that little split second of silence really sticks out.
just nails on a fucking chalkboard.
Track 3, Midnight Device. This one reminds me of Minnie the Moocher
Yes.
a lot. It could have been recorded in the 30s. The background vocals sound like they're from the 30s. It's got this great kind of pre-war jazz groove. Love the trumpet solo. Love the line, "You and your demon make a lovely pair."
Yeah. And let's be honest, Cab Calloway is God.
Yeah.
There's no I mean, there's just no room for debate on it, I
Uh,
think. I
um,
mean, that is a dude that like I think every all the rock and roll after it comes from him, you know, just
yeah,
the
he was
whole
one of the originators. If you really want to roll it
yes.
back,
Yes.
but it's all about the singer, the character in the song, kind of luring people to vote toward Vice,
Yeah.
and then it
Uh,
ends with shaving a haircut.
well, right. I thought the accent was a bit distracting. I don't think it was real. I think it was, you know,
Yeah.
I I I had to look up where they were from at that point because I wasn't familiar with a bridge city in the
Mm.
U.S. and thought it would have been Pittsburgh because they're the ones with all the bridges.
I don't know if
But
Portland is considered is called the Bridge City or not. I
yeah, I
haven't
have no
looked into it.
idea. Never heard it called that.
But yeah, she's leaning into a very sort of old school
Yeah,
jazz,
yeah.
pre-war jazz kind of accent. Track four, heavy. This one is literally about getting stoned.
And probably the purest bluegrass on here, I think. You know,
Mhm.
where it's no mix, they're just going straight up bluegrass.
Great opening fiddle riff, great groove. Love the call and response with the violin. I'll say violin
I know. I was like, oh man, it's gonna be like the Germans
because I
and
have fiddle
Faulty
in my eyes.
Towers.
Um, but great call and response with the violin and vocal. Great harmonies in the middle.
Ah, the harmonies. Holy
Yeah,
shit. Just so good in this one.
great vocal intensity in the chorus. She just
Yeah.
goes all out. Libby's got an incredible voice. Um, love the timing change when it goes up into that, classic up tempo bluegrass. Um, particularly with this band, although I listen to Punch Brothers a lot, and I guess it's the same deal. I mean, it amazes me when I listen to a band that doesn't have a drummer and I don't miss the drums.
I hadn't even really thought about there not being a drummer, honestly.
But at least with Punch Brothers, Thiele plays a lot of percussive hits on the mandolin.
Yeah.
So it kind of fills in. These guys don't have that. It's just Scott Michaud's bass.
That stand-up bass.
Yeah, just
It's just so deep enough that it's
holding down
almost a
that rhythm.
percussion in itself.
Yeah, he does a great job. And I love the violin solo on this one. Track five, Doubt. This was so close to favorite for me. It was really tight between this and another one. Um, love that dramatic opening. Definite System of a Down vibes.
Yeah.
That happens a few times on this album. Um,
Yeah, I realized if they had just plugged in and gone for the metal mashup, it would have just sounded like System of a Down, so I think it was smarter to
uh,
just stay away from it and do their own
yeah,
thing here.
I deeply relate to this one. It's about not listening to the voices in your head that tell you what a piece of shit you are.
Yeah.
Um, great timing change going into the chorus. Love the violin solo before the second verse. I really get Jeanette Napolitano from Concrete Blonde on this one in the vocal,
Okay.
except Jeanette can't go as harsh as Libby does. Those harsh vocals in the bridge are incredible. And she can switch that fast live. I've seen a live
Wow.
version.
Okay. I think it was just so short too. It just this whole thing. It just I mean, which is a good thing.
They're a
It
punk
leaves you
band.
wanting
Get
more.
in, make your point, and get out.
Exactly, yeah.
And I love that low riff more at the end, more great distorted resonator. Track six, The Crawl, great opening riff. Love the off kilter kind of almost klezmer groove on this one. Um,
I feel like we go back to the old-timey, pre-war jazz.
mhm.
Um, but this time there's kind of like this unplugged metal, Sabbath or Ravel.
Interesting. Great chorus melody, great harmonies in the chorus and verse two. Love the harsh vocals that last. We're getting ready for the crawl. I'm not good at harsh vocals. I've only dabbled with them slightly. Great horn solo as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
heavy
it's
horn
basically
solo.
just about kind of preparing for death.
Hmm.
Um, speaking of, track seven, End of the War. Love the opening riff, great vocal melody. Love the line, only the dead see the end of the war.
And it's total, folk,
Hmm.
Bob
Yeah.
Dylan,
And it's not a particular military action. It is the war of life.
Yeah.
It is all of the struggles we deal with in life. Only the dead see the end of that.
Yeah, I love the gang vocals on that.
Yeah. Uh, Great three measure pause in the riff and the verse. It's just this awkward pause where it stops and comes back. Considering songs in 4/4, it's just kind of an interesting choice. And again, we get a nice sweet ending.
Yeah, and it's so short, and you're just like, oh, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. Track 8, Crazy. This is my pick for favorite. Another one I deeply relate to, except for the medication part,
Oh,
because I can't afford it. Love the groove. Great grit on the vocal in the chorus. It doesn't go quite harsh. She just gets a little gets some dirt there, and
yeah,
she knows how to use the harsh vocals tastefully and just at the right times. Love that bass break in the bridge. Great bridge melody. Love the piano solo. Lightning Luke is obnoxiously talented. Great violin player. Great piano player.
man.
Hell
Oh,
of a
he's doing both.
voice. Damn good guitar player. I've heard him play that too. I saw a video where he trades off vocals with Libby. Incredible voice. Yeah, he's the piano player as well as the violinist.
And this really, I mean, if they plugged this in, this would really just be a System of a Down song.
See, I didn't get any system on this one. That's interesting.
But being acoustic like that, it just brings it to a whole other dimension, you know?
Getting to that chorus, every time I think I'm fine, yeah, the darkness creeps into my mind. Yeah. It tells me I'll never be okay. I'll never be okay. And maybe that's okay. That is very much a surge.
Yeah.
You're right. Huh. Track 9, Spears and Blades. Great opening riff. Love the horns on this one. A great kind of headlong groove. Love the harsh vocals. Massive harmonies in the chorus.
This is my pick for strongest. I mean, it's rawhide, but god damn, it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Great bass tone going into the bridge. Scott Michaud doesn't get a lot of chances to show off, but he's fucking solid as hell. Love the timing in the melody in the bridge. Track 10, Shame. This is the one that really reminds me of System. Love the opening riff. Love those band stabs. Great vocal melody. Love the call and response with the violin in the chorus and the vocal in the chorus. Really haunting bridge. Love the line. I don't blame anyone for wanting to leave me. I'm just staring down the barrel of a loaded gun.
Hmm. It's got that same kind of drama as the opening track, but Break the Chain. But
Yeah.
it goes sort of less of a bluegrass feel than that. They kind of leave that behind here, I feel.
And that ending is just chilling, especially the violin part.
Yeah.
Track 11, Sinner Saloon. This is sort of the companion piece to Midnight Device. They're very similar. Great piano intro, great groove. Another one that could have been recorded in the 30s, especially those background vocals. Yeah, she's got the special. That literally sounds like it's old. They must have used a certain mic.
This is where like Amy Winehouse, like at first I couldn't even remember her name throughout like the earlier part of the album. I was like, oh yeah, it was Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, this in Midnight Device, she kind of leans into, I don't think necessarily she was leaning into Amy Winehouse particularly, but a similar influence, older influence as Amy Winehouse was.
It made me think that Winehouse should have been singing from this era instead of the 60s.
Well, yeah. True. Maybe I would have enjoyed her music more.
Yeah, I think they agreed.
Great piano solo. I love that slow down at the end. Track 12, Eye for an Eye. The opening, very, very metal. And very kind of hair metal almost. Like 80s metal. Because this is palm muted guitar and a vocal. Great guitar sound though. Love the harmonies. Love the call and response with the riff after the verse.
And the violin here, damn, just so smooth. This one feels like it could have translated the best to a metal song.
Yeah. Great violin solo. I like the extension to the next to last chorus and the build on all the same. She repeats the line all the same, like 10 times, which would normally bore me, but she just builds and builds to this
Yeah.
screech. And I would think that her harsh vocals would annoy me too, because they're kind of hard, kind of high.
Yeah, but she doesn't lean on them too
Yeah,
much.
I think that's what does it. Is they're sporadic and they're just nicely timed. She uses
There's
them
too
whenever
many
they're appropriate.
singers. Too many singers. If they can do that,
It
you're
becomes a
gonna
party trick.
hear that for prepare yourself for half an hour of that, you know?
Yeah.
But
Um,
here it's like when she does it, it's like, oh, holy shit.
yeah.
Because it's only done like a handful of times throughout the album.
Yeah. And not even on every song.
No, no.
So yeah, she knows how to just tastefully bring in the harsh when it's needed. Track 13, The Good Ones. Love the opening riff and vocal melody. Kind of the same thing. Really heart-wrenching lyrics on this one. Best clean vocal on the album, in my opinion. I love the line, I thought we had a lifetime, but who knew that yours would be shorter than mine?
Man.
It's about having someone close to you pass away and not expecting it, particularly when they're young. Um,
Great closing track. I
mhm,
mean, just imagine hearing this one live
yeah.
and the sing along that you probably get that
Oh, yeah.
closing section at the end. And then, of course, I've looked up, they're playing the Metro in mid-May down the street from me.
Nice.
So, I mean,
You gonna go?
probably if I'm in town, then I don't know if I
Yeah.
will be, though.
And finally, track 14, Epilogue, another short instrumental, just an outro to the album. Beautiful violin solo. Love how it
Yeah,
resolves.
I wish they'd given him more even, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, he's an incredible violinist.
There's more than one violin on this, though, isn't there?
Well,
On this
there's
one, at least.
viola and cello here and there, but I think
Yeah.
all of the solos are probably Luke. Any part that stands out is probably Luke because he's
It,
the band member.
it felt like he was playing with someone else.
Yeah.
Like it
Uh,
wasn't just alone.
Scrolling back up to the credits, the extra strings are on "Break the Chain" and "End of the War."
Oh,
So,
so he's somehow creating effective. Well,
well, you can play two notes at once on a violin.
that's true.
You can play, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Dyads. I'll call them dyads because two notes at once. There's another
Okay.
word, double stops. You can do two notes at once. You can't do three or
All
more
right.
than two because of the way the strings are angled. But yeah, he's really good at playing double stops. And given that you're saying you'll go see them if you're in town, then I'm guessing you recommend it.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely recommend it as well. This is the first album that's gotten me to cut back on Prelude to Ecstasy.
It just it takes some very old genres, but really puts a fresh face on them. And
Yeah.
that's really all I ask. I mean, think about like how tired a regular metal album can sound.
Hmm.
You know, we were telling them it's not the '80s anymore. Move on. But these guys are taking something even older than that
And
and spinning it together.
yeah, and that's why I'm not really that into metal anymore. Like one song here and there is good, but I don't want to listen to an entire album of metal. That's kind of what put me off of Bandmade. I was a huge
Yeah.
Bandmade fan for years, but they're not the latest album, but the one before it, Unseen World, was just pure metal, and it got tiring. I'm old, and I was gonna about to say I recommend it, but I already did.
Yes.
And that's it for In the Age of Doubt. Until next time, when we'll be reviewing Neurotic Outsiders by Neurotic Outsiders. Are you familiar at all with Neurotic Outsiders?
No, I'm not.
It's a super group that they put out one album in the 90s, I think. Steve Jones on vocals, most of the lead vocals and guitar.
Huh.
Duff McKagan on guitar and a couple vocals on a couple of songs. John Taylor on bass and vocals on a couple of songs.
Duran, John Taylor?
Yes.
Wow.
And Matt Sorum on drums. So Guns N' Roses, Duran Duran, and the Sex Pistols combined.
That is a very strange mashup.
Yeah.
Even though I think Steve Jones worked with Andy Taylor on his solo
Yes, he did.
album.
Well, Andy Taylor, as soon as he got to Power Station, we learned he wants to be Steve Jones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. As soon as I found out about that one, I had to go on the list. Until then, of course, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life,
There you are.